Good morning, friends, and welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 26. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I'm so glad you joined me today. Flosstube means cross stitch and things of that sort. Variety Show means something else. Today there's several something else's, so as I've mentioned before, this is probably my last video of 2021. Starting in a couple of days, we get busy with holiday visitors and activities, and I will not be making a video, I am pretty sure, until after the new year. So, but let's get started on cross stitch. Temperature Tree by StitchinMommy. It's exciting to be coming to the last branch. Whoops, let me get the needle minder out of the way. And you see that last branch down there is December, first 10 days. And we've had some chilly days, highs in the mid 40s. That is not the darkest color I've used. There have been a couple of really dark days in January. Dark days as in low temperatures, dark floss over here, but that was pretty cold. It's not that likely, really, that we get those darkest colors of floss in December around here. In fact, we can have more days that are in the mid 70s still. So anyway, my goal is still to finish that possibly January 1st. And then I have to decide what to do with it. We'll see. That's always the challenge. Now, I haven't shown you this in a while. This is Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. It's charted by Golden Kite. And this is a painting. Since I haven't shown it, I'll tell you a little more about it. It's a painting by Sir Lawrence Alma-Tadema, who's a 19th century artist. He was known for, I'll just hold this up while I talk. He was known for his depictions of marble and classical or neoclassical scenes. And this is kind of wrinkled, but it's really quite remarkable. It's a lot of gray and white and cream color, and it's hard for me to show it on camera because I'm not sure how much you really can see, but the full size is over to about here. So I'm 35% done, maybe to about here. So anyway, I met my goal, which was to do 21,000 stitches in 2021 for this piece. Maybe 2 months ago, and at that point I slowed down on working on it because I'd met the goal and there were other things I wanted to work on. So when 2022 begins, my goal will be 22,000 stitches at least, and that is because of my membership in the Full Coverage Fanatics Facebook group. That's their annual goal. So I'll be working on that piece for that. To hit 22,000 stitches, I have to stitch around 75 or something per day, which is very doable. And my original goal for that piece was to finish it in 2 years from when I started, which would be the beginning of April of 2023. So we'll see. Now, here's the thing. Here's the news. The news of the day is I finished this. So I attribute finishing this to the Dodgeball Challenge in the Semi-Sane Stitchers Facebook group, because from November 1st until December, well, I finished it maybe 3 days ago, so what would that be, the 8th or so, I stitched more than 13,000 stitches on this project. And I'm really happy with it. This is 18 count Aida. I use 2 strands of floss, the recommended DMC, which is the darker one is 820 and the lighter one is 798. And I will say that I think that is good coverage for this, but it was a little hard to stitch sometimes. Now, would I ever do 1 strand on 18 count Aida? I don't think I would. And I'm doing 2 strands on 18 count Aida for Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. I also did 2 strands of DMC over 1 block or 2 threads of the 22 count Hardanger that I worked on earlier this year. You may remember I was doing Salute to Abigail Blackbird designs. I found that to be a little tight coverage, so we'll see. I have some 20 count Aida that I'm going to be working on some things for next year. I will try one strand of floss just to see what I think of it. I have some other things going or planned also, which I think I mentioned a couple of videos ago. So go back to a few videos ago and you'll see a lot of projects that I would like to start or am thinking of starting. Having finished Ornament, I could start something right away at the beginning of January, especially if I also finish Temperature Tree. And as you may remember, the other 2 projects I have going are the Talavera design, the Linens and Threads 2021 Mystery Stitch Along. They've released all of that, and I just yesterday evening started stitching the last section of it, but I have 30 stitches in it that are new to you, so I'm going to wait. I'll finish that by the end of January for sure. And I have Flea Market Flowers going by Lori Holt, which I paused on because I wasn't sure I liked the colors. I think I will, and I actually am not certain I like the fabric, so maybe I should restart it. But I think I'm just going to go ahead because it's fine. It really is. We'll see. And I have, that's all. So when this year ends, I will have just 2 projects going, Flea Market Flowers and Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. Definitely we'll start some more things. Absolutely. For sure. Okay, what else do I have to talk about today? Well, last week, I talked about our Christmas decorations, and I forgot to mention one. So let me just turn around. Pardon me, you're gonna have to look at my back for a second and show you this. Now, I forgot to mention it because it was lost for a long time. And of course it's see-through. I hadn't really counted on that. Let's just put a piece of cross stitch behind it. Sorry, this is, not much better, is it? Oh well. Yeah, that isn't much better. I should have thought this through. So it's on canvas, obviously, on needlepoint canvas. But I did it in 1988, and it's a bell pull shape or banner shape. And I don't know if you can see, these stitches are sheaf stitches and long stitches in gold, something annoying to stitch with. I don't know if it's Kreinik or what it is. A lot of little special things. I think French knots, which I love to do. Just looking at it. Some satin stitches. And it's supposed to be finished with it was a kit that gave the canvas and the threads and the pattern, but it did not include any of the finishing items. And so I think they recommend you finish it with satin and some gold braid type thing and a tassel at the bottom, and cut it out and finish it in this bell pull or banner shape, which I had it on these stretcher bars that I stitched it on, and did not have the materials to finish it, and it just nothing ever happened about it. So I've just displayed it like that, just standing up on the piano or on a music stand for many Christmases, except about 5 or 6 or 7 Christmases ago, it didn't come out when the Christmas decorations came out, and I didn't notice. And after that, didn't think about it because it hadn't been out that year, and so I just forgot about it. There it is, though. I found it, and somewhere up in my sewing room, I have the instructions to finish it, and maybe I'll do that. I do actually have a piece of cream-colored satin that I could use, maybe. So that I wanted to talk about. I said I was going to show you the contents of Jenny's Christmas box, Countdown to Christmas, Jenny Doan from Missouri Star Quilt Company. Well, I forgot to bring them in. Maybe I'll insert a couple of pictures, but let me say that I've been very pleased that every day it's fun to open something. And I would say so I've opened 11 days. I would say of those 11 days, 8 of the days are things that are very fun and intriguing, and I will definitely do something with, whether the intended project or something else, but I'm happy about that. The other 3 days are not useless. They're not a pointless item. They're just different. Like one of them I'll show, I think I have a picture, is a little soap in the shape of a spool of thread, which is made by a company in Hamilton, Missouri, which is where Missouri Star Quilt Company is. And I like the idea that they're supporting their local businesses in this box. So I like that, but I just would never have bought a thread-shaped soap thing. But I'll use it. Yes, I will. I'm also going to put some pictures up of the quilt called American Beauty, which I showed a few blocks of couple of months ago in my video. And I finished the quilt top a month or so ago, and just yesterday I finished quilting it. I'm pretty pleased with how it's turning out. It hasn't been bound yet, so the pictures don't show the binding. But I'll put the binding on it maybe tomorrow and start doing the hand stitching and do that. Very pleased with how it turned out. I would definitely make another one of those. I would probably have learned something. Hopefully I will have learned something. Not all of the blocks are exactly flat, but it's amazing how the quilting sort of deals with that. Another thing about doing a block of the month that comes as monthly kits is I don't pre-wash the fabric because I don't know, I just don't. It just seems like if you're doing a kit and you're getting cutting instructions, when I was first starting that one, I was concerned that I would not have enough fabric. If I pre-washed it, it would shrink a little. Having done it, I would now pre-wash a kit made by that company, which is Wilmington Prints, because they provided plenty of fabric. And that not working with fabric that is not pre-washed is not my usual. I pre-wash all my quilting fabric except for pre-cuts, like 10-inch squares or 5-inch squares, which are sometimes known as layer cakes or charm squares. I don't pre-wash those. But anyway, I was very pleased with how that turned out, and it was fun to quilt. And it will be fun to finish it and then give it to someone. I have in mind who I'm going to give it to. I have one more quilt that I'm ready to quilt that I want to put on the big machine, on our long arm machine. But I don't know if I'll do it before Christmas. We'll see. I have a friend coming to visit starting next week, and I want to put some muslin practice fabric on the machine because I want to have some chances to practice, and it will give her a chance to play around a bit if she's interested. I feel as if it's a good idea to put some practice muslin on every now and then, because when I'm doing an actual quilt, I don't want to be learning a new design, because if I mess it up, I have to either rip it out, which I really don't want to do seriously. I do not want to rip out quilting, or I just have to live with it. And I don't want to live with it. On a quilt that I might give to somebody, I would like it to be something that I'm confident in stitching. But there are a few things that I've seen on the internet, or things that we have some books that show different quilting ideas that I want to practice. And by the way, speaking of, if you are a quilter and want to get inspiration and instruction in how to do different designs, I strongly recommend Angela Walters. She has many tutorials about quilting. They're usually thematic. The one she's doing right now is on feathers. And she's done some on ruler work, and she's done some on the question of how to quilt it, what kinds of ideas to use in different shapes, different blocks. Very interesting. And Cindy and I have both learned a lot from her. And I'll put a link to her stuff in the description box below, if I remember, which I will. And so I wanted to spend a little time reflecting on this past year, because 1 year ago today was my last day at work. And some of you may know that I worked for 19 years for our church, the Chapel Hill Bible Church. And I worked in various jobs. I started out as a building attendant, meaning I worked in the evenings and unlocked rooms and made groups that were using the rooms comfortable and got things that they needed. And I also programmed the HVAC system, which I enjoyed doing. I programmed it for that week's activities so that we would be heating and cooling the rooms that were going to be used. I then became the admin for facilities, and then a couple of years or a year and a half later, and that was part-time. And then a year and a half later, I became full-time as the admin for my very good friend, Brent Clark, and for Matthew Wright, the facilities director. And then after that, a couple of years after that, I became staff director. I was responsible for supervising the administrative staff and support staff. And then when Brent resigned from that position to take another position at Trinity School, I became the church administrator. That is, he was pastor for administration, and I became church administrator, which is the same. It's essentially, well, it's a different role. It is a different role, but it was in the same category of work, and I essentially succeeded him. And I worked in that role from 2010 until I retired last year. On December 11th was my last working day, which is today, the day I'm making this video. So I had a great time working. It really was a great job. And I wanted to just say a few words about retirement, about thinking about retirement as I was approaching that time, and about what has happened since then. So when I chose to retire, I didn't need to retire by age, and I was still enjoying my job, but I wanted to retire when I still had something to offer and when people would kind of wish that I wasn't quite retiring yet. I didn't want to outstay my welcome. I wanted to be missed a little bit. So that was one reason that I chose to retire last year instead of waiting 2 or 3 or 4 years into the future. Another reason was that I had so many interests and things that I wanted to do that as a working person, I could do those things, but I gave my tireder time to those things rather than my best time. And I wanted to switch that. I wanted to give my best time to my hobbies and interests for a while and see how that went. And that has been a tremendous thing about this past year, is giving my most wakeful time to those interests and hobbies, and taking up some new hobbies, for instance, tablet weaving, which I've shown and discussed a couple of times in these videos. And of course, I imagined that, oh, when I retire, I'm going to have all this time, and here are all the things I'm going to do. In fact, I used to have a blog. Well, I still have a blog. It still exists. I just haven't put anything in it for quite a while. But I made a list in this blog about the things that I was going to do when I retired, or that I think I even said that I might do, some ideas of things that I might do. One was organizing all my photos on my computer. Another, clear out drawers and closets. Read many books, write handwritten letters and notes, write my reminiscences. I turn it away because, let me just move this so it's a little more. I have a computer right here. Volunteer at church, practice violin and piano, learn German, Spanish, and Elvish, go geocaching, work jigsaw puzzles, do my Legos, practice cursive, learn calligraphy, make quilts and quilt them. I did that. Knit, cross stitch, and tat. I did the cross stitch part. Play games, board games, card games, video games. Did that. Watch movies during the day. Not one. Perfect my cookie decorating skills. Nope, have not done that. Make great bread. So there are about 20 things on that list. I've done about 4 of them. And if you were to ask me, well, why didn't you do those other things? I would say, well, because I didn't have time. Which, that's a crazy thing. Of course, I did have time. I had time. All the time that I had was pretty much at my own disposal. I had few obligations outside my own choosing this past year. What a luxury. What a blessing to have had this past year, to be like that. So why didn't I do those things? Well, because I really threw myself into a few of those things. Quilts, cross stitch. That might be mainly it. And I did some things that weren't on the list. For instance, I became quite interested in Sudoku and in some other puzzle type games. I did quite a bit of, I listened to books. I have really used Audible and Chirp, which is another Audible recorded books. That's what I'm trying to say. It's another recorded books website that has some discounted books. So I did listen to quite a few books. And I found that one of the big changes, because I was retired, is that when I had conversations with people, or when I dropped by the church to say hello to my friends, I wasn't really that worried about the passage of time. If the conversation went longer, that was fine. If I thought I might be home at 3 and it was 4:30, that's fine, because anything I plan to do between 3 and 4:30, I can do tomorrow. Because tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is another day that has all kinds of possibilities to it without very many obligations. So I enjoyed very much the more relaxed pace of this past year. And I didn't do many of those things. Some of them I might yet do. That is, I haven't given up. All of those things are still things I'm interested in. And another thing that will change things going forward is that my husband also has just retired, just a couple weeks ago. And so some of these tasks are going to be easier done by two people, like clearing out drawers and closets, that bullet point. That is much easier done with two people than just me. So I think that we'll get to some of those things. I definitely wanted to try tatting again. I used to do tatting. I believe I showed some tatting on this channel, on my videos. And I think I can do tatting since I have the amazing magnifying and light setup that I have. That was really one of the things that slowed me down on it, was that I couldn't see it very well. But I bet that I can do it, and I would like to try. It's yet another craft, such as tablet weaving, cross stitch, and eventually quilt making, that once, I mean, what do you do with the finished objects? So, don't know about that. I have a lot of yarn, beautiful yarn, I want to knit. So those things I'm sure I'll do. I won't be as monolithic on quilting and cross stitch in 2022 as I have been in 2021, I'm betting. But I sure have enjoyed this year. I really have. And something else I didn't plan to do, really. I didn't really think I was going to start making videos, but here I am. And I certainly am enjoying this as well. And I appreciate the fact that you watch my videos, because that makes it fun. And I enjoy when you leave comments. It also is inspiring to me. I think I would need to have something interesting to show or talk about, which makes me reflect on what I'm doing, makes me have some goals. For instance, the temperature tree, to have at least 7 days progress on that every week has been inspiring to keep moving on it, which is one reason that I will finish it in December, at the end of December. I will, probably January 1st. And it's been really fun to have the goal of making a video and having something to talk about. So I appreciate you. I hope that you each have a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season in whatever way you celebrate. Hopefully, you'll be able to be with some of your family and friends that maybe you weren't able to be with last year. We are looking forward to our friend Anne coming from Canada, and Canada has been closed for so long. Finally, the borders are open, which is wonderful. We are going to see some of our friends, and we'll still keep to ourselves, see our son and daughter-in-law, participate in some outdoor activities for the Christmas holiday, and we're looking forward to it. And we're looking forward to celebrating the real amazing event of history of Jesus, the Son of God, being born as a human being. That is just an amazing thing. And so I hope that each of you has a very wonderful Christmas and holiday season. And many blessings to you, friends. I'll see you in 2022.